So my question to you guys was, does that matter to you, seeing something that's so photo traced in a comic? Does it take you out?
Why does it bother you so much?
I just don't find it interesting.
No, but why?
Because I can look out my window and see it. I always liked comic art and art because it showed me something different. It showed me a new way to see things.
I'll say this. Let me put it in. Let me reframe it. Okay, if the concept of comic art is stylistically trying to capture the world outside your window, independent of style, are you getting hung up on the fact that it's photorealistic? But it's still capturing the world outside your window. Yeah,
it's just I feel like there's no vision in it. There's no I don't know. It's just
the vision is the photorealism.
That's not vision to me.
Jesus, this elitist.
That's lack of vision. This is the Inkpulp podcast.
Hello.
Yo.
Hello, Eric.
Let's go.
How are you?
What's up,
good.
people?
How are you doing, man? Can I tell you something that's on my mind that's intimidating the hell out of me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please do.
This live show that we're going to do on the 27th.
Why?
Why are you really intimidated?
It's the world is populated by crazy people. Mm-hmm. We're proof of that. You know what I mean? But we're on a certain level. We're on a certain spectrum of crazy, and I'm afraid the opposite or the more extreme version of crazy comes walking into the place.
Well, that's what we have. Jamie
but
for,
it's it's live, but you're in your house and they're somewhere else. So even if
I'm afraid of everybody,
Yeah, but they're not going to be right next to you.
All right. Well, while we're on that subject, if they feel like it, while we're on that subject, let's promote that a little bit on 27th of December this year, because Shawn doesn't believe in the happiness and joy of the holidays. He wanted to stream something like me and Matteo. We're God-fearing kids, raised to.
Don't put Matteo in that category.
No, Matteo's there. Yeah, he's resisting it now, but he can't get it away. Like looking at Matteo's face right now, he's got like rosy cheeks. He's in the holiday mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's
already
very hard
into Santa.
There it is. He's an ugly red sweater away from really just, fulfilling his opportunity to be in the holidays. Me personally, this is a lighter color black, so I can tell that I'm getting.
Oh yeah, I can tell that it's definitely lighter than the other one that you had.
A dramatic jump. Eric, you're taking some risks, fashion risks.
My wardrobe, it sticks out in my wardrobe. It's sticking out like, that's my Christmas sweater. You, on the other hand, Shawn, you're dressing more and more like a curmudgeon. Every day we get closer to Christmas. The three ghosts are going to come visit you soon.
Also, why the fuck are you wearing a scarf in your studio? Like,
because it's freezing in here.
Big
I just got in. It's freezing.
It's the
oh my god.
That too.
It's the costume of the holidays. He's starting to become more and more like Ebenezer's Shawn, who's three ghosts, the Jew of Christmas past, the Jew of Christmas present. And the sad Christmas future is going to come.
The sad of the past, the ghost of the sad past, the past sadness.
Keep going. Keep trying.
Jesus.
It's the ghost of the sad past, the ghost of the sad present, the ghost of the sad future. It's just it's the same emotion.
It's not even the ghost, guys. You got it all wrong. It's not even the ghost. It's the Eeyore of the present, the Eeyore of the past, and the Eeyore of the future.
All right, let me not lose track of the point, which is on the 27th we are going to have a live show. We don't know how it's going to be turning up. It's going to be streamed live to YouTube, and we're going to have an opportunity to talk to people as they quote unquote call in. We're going to give everybody a link, and we'll be able to bring you on. Hopefully Jamie will be able to moderate it well, and then potentially we could have a few guests drop by and hang out with us during that time. What I don't know, and actually I meant to ask, is how long are we going to do it for? Because I can barely stand you guys for an hour. Okay.
All day. I was saying
I've already
we
bought some cocaine just so I can stay awake.
Oh, not for the I was going to say, like, you bought cocaine, but not for the show. Like, for right now, going into the holidays, you need as much cocaine as possible. All right, so there you go.
By the way, sorry to
join
interrupt,
us
Eric,
on the
but,
27th.
It's the problem is that when is this specific episode that we're recording right now gonna come out? Do you know that, Shawn?
Oh, this is going to come out in February sometime. So
you guys effing missed it.
So you're gonna be seeing the ghost of the past podcast.
Yeah. Well, Jamie potentially could clip that part and just say, "Hey, we're going to go do this thing."
Or we can post
this
episode a little earlier. But then it's gonna be messy, probably.
No, we can't. I got the schedule already all.
Oh my God, he's got the schedule, poor boy. My God, what is it gonna happen if you don't follow the schedule? Oh my God.
He's right.
Done.
He's not wrong, you know.
No, I could, but like last week, I had to spend 45 minutes building the jigging the whole schedule. All right, you do it. You do it, asshole.
Shawn, I know we're busting your chops, but thank you so much for doing all the hard work that you do.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Thank you guys for
clearly care.
I appreciate it. I know.
You clearly care more than. Well, I'll speak for myself. You clearly care more than me by like a lot. Yeah.
For me, it's like a little bit more than me. Yeah,
just
a lot more. Yeah,
like a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what are we talking about? What were we talking about before we went live, Shawn? We were talking about how people are overreacting to.
Yeah, the Marvels movie.
Yeah, that's weird to me.
It's very strange to me too.
Yeah, we were talking about this movie, and I don't know if people have seen it. It's called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. And Shawn made a good point to say there's a character in there. Go ahead, Shawn. Say what you said, because you don't talk about it.
All right, so I'll back up a little bit. So there's a new movie, Matteo, called The Marvels.
Yeah,
it's like
okay. So you're not talking about the Demeter, no.
No, we are. They tie together.
Okay, because incredible coincidence. I literally watched it last night, the Demeter.
Oh, okay, good, cool. So this Marvel, I see a preview for this, and I have zero interest. And I'm just thinking to myself, what a strange thing to put out. You have this entire Marvel universe with all of these like icons of the Marvel universe, and none of these characters are that. So it becomes to some people a vehicle for social agenda of an all-female cast, which I don't have an issue with. But if there's other females to choose in the Marvel universe that might attract more Marvel fans. This is not one of them. So the movie tanks. It doesn't look good. Everything I've read about it is it's terrible. But if you take a stance of that movie looks terrible or I didn't like it, you seem to be getting attacked as a anti-feminist or, anti-female cast, when that's not the case at all. And so it got Eric and I talking. It just seems like this Marvel movie was just really trying to capitalize on this aware social justice movement.
Was it?
And what?
Was it? You think so?
I think so. It seems like it was made for that reason. It doesn't seem to be like, it's not like it's like when they did Iron Man. Well, that's a pillar of the Marvel universe and the Avengers, and they build from that. Like this seems, and at a time where Marvel's performing so poorly in movies and comics and TV, this seems like a really poor decision. But yes, that's what it feels like to me. This has a social agenda behind it.
You actually saw it. So what did you see?
No, I didn't see the Marvels. I watched.
No, he saw Demeter.
Oh, he saw Demeter. Yeah.
So that got Eric and I talking.
Sorry, it just came out.
So the last voyage of the Demeter I really enjoyed.
Before you get into that, okay, I want to push back on something that you said, which is like this movie seems like it's been made to sort of like fulfill a social justice something, right? And I think about that sometimes, and I go like, that's what I immediately knee jerk into, because that's what the outside is telling me. Okay. But if you take a look at it, just take a step back and go like, okay, what does this movie potentially try to, like, if there's a try to satiate, right? What is it trying to fulfill, right? If there's a need, what is it trying to fulfill? So Marvel has historically been, and I think they missed a step there, in historically the Marvel Cinematic Universe for however many phases have been going on, there hasn't been a female-led, just on their own, right? There hasn't been a female-led.
Wanda?
No, I'm talking about in the feature film. Wanda is like a television show. Right.
Okay.
So like they missed the opportunity to do it with Black Widow. And I don't know why, I don't know if there's any sort of like contractual stuff that's happening behind the scenes, or maybe they believe that there wasn't enough general interest in making a standalone movie for that character, which I would argue to the otherwise. She was, she was an intriguing character that I thought written well in the same sort of theme that was Winter Soldier. It would have been awesome, like a spy movie. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So
did you see the Black Widow movie?
Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah. But I thought, I thought it was like years. It had me interested enough to even want to see it.
I thought it was years too late, right? But I think that's the reason. I think part of that, the baggage of this movie, is coming from that almost desperate, we're behind introducing a female lead or a female-led movie. And that's why they squeezed it right between Endgame and Infinity War. And if you move it anywhere else in the timeline except for that middle part where people
You're
are
talking
like,
about the Captain Marvel movie?
The Captain Marvel movie, yeah.
Okay.
I think if you moved it earlier, I don't know if we'd have done as well as it did, because it was almost messaged as if this is important for you to watch because it is the bridge between the first part and the second part of the Infinity movies, right?
Right.
So I don't think that has anything to do with a female-led anybody, right? I think that has a lot more to do with, one, they did not establish that character, right? Very well. They kind of like just shoehorned it into a, as a bridge, using it as a bridge, because if they had done the same exact thing with Black Widow, which they couldn't because spoilers, she fucking dies, right? Like, but if they had done that, if you had established Black Widow and Iron Man 2 and leading into like Avengers 1 and Avengers 2, and there she is, and then you do her movie, I think there would be better fan affinity because you took the time to build a character.
Sure.
Right? When you shoehorn them in and say this is now important, which is, really disingenuous. I think it's done in bad faith. And then you take a look at the movie itself on its quality, not necessarily on the fact that it's female led. So there's a bunch of things working against it. So you fast forward to like right now, and now the Marvel Cinematic Universe has taken a slight dip. I'm being very generous, a slight dip in its quality, and as far as it's like writing, like as far as its writing is concerned, you take that baggage, you compound it with all the baggage that came previously, not limited to how the actress is acting publicly, right? And you get the marbles, and you go like, I don't know if that movie was any good at all. I don't know if it could overcome the baggage that it was tugging along with it, right? It needed to be as good as Winter Soldier or like Captain America 2 or Iron Man 1 or all these movies that are like the benchmark of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
If you critique it based on that, you and I can have a conversation. That's an extended sort of like, I see this being better. I see, like, I agree with this. I disagree with this. But I think what happens is, especially people who defend that movie almost like they do it. I don't know if they do it blindly, but they certainly do it like they lump a bunch of people all into one group. And I think it goes back to what you're saying, Shawn, which is to say, if you don't like this movie, you must be against a woman-led movie or like a woman-led franchise, which is not true. But I know why people knee jerk into that, because there are some people who go, Brie Larson sucks, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, maybe that's an opinion. Let's try to look at that movie objectively.
You said something about her personally. So is she like, I don't know anything about her, like outside of her roles. Is she
Even
vocal
better.
about?
Even better that you don't. So you're just judging that movie as is, you know?
Right. What does she do? Like with personally?
I don't want to go into like
dogs on the street.
She goes into baby hospitals and just like hits them on the heads with hammers.
Yep.
She doesn't do any of that thing. She is of a generation of actors who see their platform as opportunity to advocate for whatever it is that they want. And whereas as that action generally is whatever, it's your platform, do what you want. There's the way she broadcasts her message, it's received very abrasively.
Oh, okay.
Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
It goes back to what we all were talking before, not my monkey, not my circus, whatever. But it does potentially impact the movie that you're trying to promote. You know what I mean?
Right. I got you. That's all fair.
That's not me. That's not for me to decide. Do what you want, Brie. So it's up to you. So that's the thing where I'm like, I know why people are so defensive generally of criticism of this movie, but I would hope that they're level-headed enough to take a step back and go like, you know, like I understand why people react that way. Now let's rate the movie on its merit, and who knows whether or not it's bad or good because I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Now that led us into the Demeter movie. Right.
Yeah. So that got Eric and I talking because I really enjoyed the Demeter. It was a really nice monster movie. It was an homage to the classic monster movies while feeling modern at the same time. And they had the protagonist was a black guy, and they tied in. I don't know because I don't remember this chapter in the book. I don't know if in the book he was white or not, but it didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
So there was a bit of the story where and he was a surgeon or a doctor, and he went to medical school. He's the only black guy in the entire medical school. So in that time period, that makes perfect sense. And it was a piece of the story that I really enjoyed. So in a way, it wasn't forcing a social agenda down your throat, but it was woven into the fabric of the story in a very good and interesting way. And I feel like if you take what I said about the Marvels, this is kind of the opposite. The movie wasn't like marketed as that. It was a monster movie. And this is just the story of one of the characters.
Sure.
And I liked how they handled it there.
Yeah.
So that was the compare contrast that Eric and I were talking about before the show started.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it in context to the exercise of doing it. So I go like, yeah, they took Bram Stoker's Dracula and took one chapter of it, basically the voyage of Dracula from Transylvania into the New World, into England. And they said, hey, let's tell a story in the context of this. You know, I don't know. Again, similar to Shawn, I'm not familiar enough with it to understand whether or not that was even, I thought from my recollection, it just spoke about it in general. I don't know if there was a story.
That's what I remember from the book. I remember that Dracula was being put on board this ship, and there was a log kept, and the ship arrived in London, and the crew were all dead and gone.
Yeah, and so they made
that
a
was
story
really as far as the book went, I think.
Yeah, and and they made this story, and they said, hey, that's an interesting chapter. That's an interesting segment. Let's go tell a story in that. Protagonist is a black man, and they gave him I thought, a really well-rounded story. And it wasn't really good. Done from a shoehorn / activism perspective. It was just like interesting, right?
Right.
I think that's when it's done well, when it's done elegantly, when you can go like, hey, we can tell that story because guess what? Black men did exist back then, and this potentially could, tell a really interesting component of the Dracula, the Bram Stoker story. Okay, cool. I think it's when
Matteo,
it's shoehorned in where you go like, It didn't make any sense to me why you had to do that. And the argument is like, well, why not? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. So it's as subjective as anything. It wasn't,
sure.
I guess why not argument pisses me off.
I feel like when the message or there's an agenda that they put in front of the story in terms of importance, that's when you lose me. But when you put the story ahead of it, then you got me. And I think Spike Lee is very good at that.
Yeah.
Matteo, what'd you think of Demeter?
I really liked it, even though I'm not a huge horror fan in general. But this one was more of a mix between horror, thriller, fantasy more. Like it wasn't a classic
monster movie,
like horror, a monster movie.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that the ending is not like a real ending. Like it gives you the chance to see a second chapter potentially, which I think like what's going to happen is that the guy turns into Blade basically and then starts.
I was just going to say that. Right? That's Blade. It's the Blade origin story.
Yeah. Isn't it?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought the same thing. I said the same thing.
But
the same thing.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm sorry I don't have much to say about it because, to me, I'm already not a huge fan of the monsters movies and stuff like that. It was just, I saw it and then I remember that you told me that you recently saw it with Zoe and you liked it.
Yeah,
we didn't know what to watch
we liked it a lot.
At night. So I was like, hey, Shawn told me it's good, so we should watch it. And we did. But
did Francesca
it's not
like
my
it?
genre. Yeah, she liked it. The same as me, meaning it's not her genre.
Yeah.
So we just watched it and we were entertained. We finished it. So nobody felt asleep or anything. So it worked, But I don't have, but I think it was a well done story. Everything worked. So I liked it.
Yeah.
Sorry not to be so.
I have a serious question.
Not being so specific with my comment.
I have a very serious. You're fired. My serious question is: when did this show become a movie review podcast?
Yeah, fucking I don't know. It's just us getting together. I want to emphasize that one of the better parts of us just getting together for this podcast is just us chit-chatting. This is the shit that we would talk about, minus, potentially things that gets us in trouble. You know what I mean? Like this is just us chit-chatting. I don't know. We end up talking about.
By the way, I saw a movie last night, and
which one?
I tried and watch 3,000 Years of Longing. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, have you seen that?
I don't know why, but I ran into the trailer a few weeks ago. So as soon as I saw it on I think I had it on Prime Video, I was like, we should watch that. It's it looked interesting, at least aesthetically on the trailer. Yeah. So we should try and watch it. So we did, and I lasted like 25 minutes. Then when I woke up, yeah, when I woke up, because it starts in an interesting way because it started to, I don't know, there's all the build up for the genie to come out. So you're waiting for that moment, and in the meantime, you're learning about the Tilda Swinton character, and then he appears, and they start talking and talking. And talking, it almost looked like Shawn 2 episodes ago, literally. Like they would never stop talking, and it was just the two of them. And sometimes you would see some flashback, and then back to their dialogue. And after I don't know, like 15, 18 minutes of dialogue, I just, and then when I woke up. I was like, an hour went by, and Francesca looked at me. She just woke up as well, and she was like, "Should we go to bed?" I was like, "Yeah." And then we did. And this is my review.
You guys are tough.
For 3,000 years of longing.
But Eric, you love this movie, it seems like, yeah?
I have an affinity for these kinds of movies. It's similar to, do you guys remember Baron Munchausen from back in the day?
I love Baron Munchausen, yeah.
It's similar to that, where they reveal how the genie or the jinn, Idris Elba's character gets there. You know what I mean? So that's the tale. She runs into the jinn. He explains how he ended up in her company.
Was this a Terry Gilliam film as well?
It feels like it. I don't think it was.
Okay.
It feels like it. And it's interesting to me, but it's not for everybody, clearly, because Matteo fell asleep. I don't know what he was doing.
No, but to be honest
today.
with you, I've been like pretty tired at night for the last like couple of weeks.
What's going on?
So in general, I don't know. It was just one of those periods in which you get sleepy earlier than usual. So that's
winter, cold weather.
That's what's happening to me. And but I wanted to add something, but which is I'm planning on watching it in another moment, because I thought, I saw the trailer and there was a lot of interesting stuff in the trailer. So I think it's an interesting movie. It wasn't just the right movie at the right time for me last night.
Yeah. I think similar to that is when I was trying to watch Everything All at Once. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, watch that.
I haven't seen it yet. I fell asleep just like you, Matty. 10 minutes in, I was like, boop, I just turned off. Not because it was boring,
to me,
but because I was
that
freaking
movie,
tired.
But the only thing that I would criticize is that, to me, it looks like they had something like when they were writing it, they had like 5 different ideas for the ending and they couldn't choose. So they put all the endings like one after the other. And to me, the movie should have ended at a specific moment. And there's a scene with 2 rocks talking to each other. And if that was the end of the movie, I was already good with it. Like, to me, it was a great movie. And then it doesn't end. So there's another thing going on. And then it looks like it's over, but then something else happened. Yeah. And then it looks like it's over again, and something else happened. It never ends. And at the end, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Just finish this fucking thing. It was ready to be done like 20 minutes ago. So, but this is just, again, my opinion. And the impression that I got is that they couldn't choose between endings, so they put everything in there.
For me, what I didn't like about it was like there was just too many Asians. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care.
I mean, you left your country to go to the States so that you wouldn't.
I said, like, you know what? Enough of these
Asians,
kinds of Asians.
Bobby Lee.
I honestly, 10 minutes
Filipinos the jungle Asians.
Oh, look at that! I didn't.
You refer to
Bobby Lee is so funny.
As
Bobby
jungle
Lee
Asians.
is so funny.
Not me. Just to be clear. All right.
Matteo, you know what? You've ruined Gomorrah for me, because now that I'm watching Gomorrah again, and it takes place in Naples, whenever they do like a shot of Naples, I'm like, oh, there are a bunch of assholes everywhere, every one of them.
Until you run into an actual person from Naples, and then. Anyway, that's what we were talking about. Matteo's like, paying attention to one movie and not paying attention to another one.
Yep.
Okay, good night, you guys. 27 minutes in. We'll talk to you guys later. You guys are winding down,
I've been thinking about
for the
something.
holidays.
What? And I wanted to share it with you. I've been thinking about adding a segment to the show. All right. So
Okay. I like this.
Hear me out.
Okay.
All right. The segment is gonna be called "A Filipino, a Jew, and an Italian go to a bar and ... And our listeners will get to add the rest of the joke, their own version of it, of how the whole thing ends.
I am totally open to doing this on the live show. It is going to fall completely flat.
I don't understand the premise. That's what we do now, you know? You're like saying something that like, oh, we've never done that before. It's literally what we do every week. Minus maybe the bar. And the bar is
you got to structure
conceptual.
it as if it is a joke, you know? So with the Italian guy should say something, then the Filipino should answer, and then the joke ends with the Jew by saying, I don't know, like, well, this coffee is too expensive or something like that, you know?
It's all just another excuse for Matteo to slam my Jewishness. That's what this is.
I was just, you know, the first thing that came to my head.
So.
The Italian is this joke. Just
that's
to
why
make
he
an example,
segmented
you know?
that very specifically. He said the Filipino, the Italian, and then the Jew. Like that's how you always end. Just bomb on the last guy.
Yeah, he's going to be like this handsome Italian man who's very wealthy, surrounded by women, enters a bar with his Filipino friend who no one cares about, and a Jew.
We're going to get in so much trouble. Do you think that's the reason why, because of all the stupid things that we say during this podcast, has there been a noticeable drop in our viewership, Shawn?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm waiting, you know.
Is there being a noticeable drop? I haven't checked the numbers.
No, I wasn't paying attention. I'm just asking.
Matteo, where'd you go? Did Matteo disappear from you?
No, I can see him.
He's not on my screen. Oh, I hear you. Oh my God, it's the ghost of Matteo's past.
Matteo's current. Now, we're going to drag this thing to an hour unless you guys think of something to talk about, because I'm interested in
I've got a few things we could talk about, but Matteo, is that all you wanted to say?
No, I also wanted to add, speaking of segments, Eric, I'm still waiting for the ask a stupid question and get a stupid answer.
Me too.
I'll start opening that up to questions again. So very soon, guys.
Yeah, we're going to need that on the live show. That's going to be a real important part of the live show, I think.
Okay. We'll figure it out. Go ahead.
Okay,
Shawn.
Shawn. Go ahead.
So, I have a question for you guys. When it comes to comic book art, and let's say, like, I was having this discussion with Jeff DeCal earlier today, so it just got me thinking this would be a good thing to talk about. When I see a comic book and it just feels like a bunch of photographs that have been traced, I'm out. I've lost complete interest. Yeah. And one of the reasons for me is what I've always loved about comics was I could open this book and enter a world totally foreign to me. Yeah. And every artist who drew the books took me into a new place. And the way people looked and moved and act and the way a desk was drawn and the way a tree was drawn was all really interesting. Yeah. And comics became very focused on looking like the world I know. And so when I see that, I have zero interest. And then as an artist, I don't get it either. But I was curious what your guys' thoughts were. What are you giggling at?
And the concept where you're like, I don't want to live in this real world.
No, it's just
I'm not interested in the fucking real world. I just want to be plugged into the Matrix again, whatever.
Yeah. Put me back in.
I want to be naked, bald, and full of wires.
I want to go play with Winnie the Pooh. He's my friend.
I want to walk into a magical tree and turn into a cartoon and play with a bear that only is wearing a shirt so I can give him tummy rubs anytime I want after I give him honey. What was your question? I freaking got lost because in my head, I'm like, is this a commentary that Shawn gave to Jeff? Hey, you draw too many pictures that are photographed.
No. I love Jeff's work. This wasn't
also,
about
here's
Jeff.
the other part that I was like kind of hung up on. Why is it that you talk to Jeff so much? Like Jeff never talks to me. He never does. He doesn't call me anymore. It hurts my feelings.
To be fair, I usually will text or DM him.
You instigate the conversation.
Not every time, but I mean,
sounds like it.
Maybe more so than he does, but not every time. No.
All right, my feelings are less hurt. Our friendship is, apparently really passive.
But Jeff could say the same thing about you. It sounds like.
No, I'm reflecting. I just realized, I'm probably not reaching out enough to the guy. All right, what was your
When was
question?
the last time that you reached out?
I spoke to him this morning, like I just said.
morning,
No, I was talking to
he's
Eric.
talking to me.
Oh.
2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
No.
Oh, that's
Pretty
about as
recently.
often as I talk to Jeff.
Yeah.
Reply to you?
No, he hates me.
Okay, well that's different.
It's probably got.
In that case,
Matteo's
it
general
doesn't
concern.
fucking like you.
Yeah. I think that's why he doesn't get back to me. I'm understanding it now that he doesn't fucking like me. All right,
Wait,
your question was, what the fuck is? Why are these people?
Wait.
using
I'll get
photographs?
back to my question. I got to get back to my question. Speaking of which, Matteo I had my friend stop by the studio yesterday, and my friend had to show me what Matteo's doing on his next Penthouse cover because Matteo doesn't share it with us.
Eric left. Is that because they're talking about me?
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't give a fuck. Fuck you, Eric. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Why?
Okay, so your friend Ollie, you're talking about, right?
Yeah, Ali came by. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, dude, have you seen Matteo's next Penthouse cover?" I'm like, "No. A good friend of mine, I would have thought I would have seen that, but no. You're just hustling."
Oh yeah. It's all for the money. Oh, by the way, they just announced that cover, so I'm gonna be posting it on my social media
cool.
soon. Finally, so yeah.
Did Aaliyah paint it yet?
No, that's the cover that you saw in New York. They just announced that.
Oh, that one there. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's a gorgeous cover.
And Aaliyah is painting the
question,
second and the third one now.
Awesome. So my question to you guys was, does that matter to you, seeing something that's so photo traced in a comic? Does it take you out?
Go ahead, Matty.
No, it's. Do you want to go first, Eric?
No, it's on you, man. Go ahead.
It doesn't. Like, I understand that it's not my research. Like, my thing is that I like, and I was thinking about this pretty recently. I found out that I like to be surprised when it comes to my work and the way I do things. And that's why I keep trying. It's another reason why I keep trying every time to do new stuff, because I like the fact that I can look at my stuff. I was like, sometimes when it happens, and be like, oh fuck, I didn't know I could do that. That's nice, That's that kind of surprise, And
Right.
And Eric, I think we talked about it in our solo podcast when Shawn wasn't here, about that that thing. What was it? I don't recall, but this was connected to what we were talking about. Fuck. Well, if it comes back, I'll talk about it. But
can I follow up with something that Shawn had said? Right? Why does it bother you so much?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I was interested.
Yeah, it sounds like you wake.
I just don't find it interesting.
No, but why?
Because I can look out my window and see it. I always liked comic art and art because it showed me something different, and it showed me a new way to see things.
I'll say this. Let me put it in. Let me reframe it. Okay, if the concept of comic art is stylistically trying to capture the world outside your window, independent of style, are you getting hung up on the fact that it's photorealistic? But it's still capturing the world outside your window.
Yeah,
you're saying it's just not stylistic enough.
Yeah, it's just I feel like there's no vision in it. There's no I don't know. It's just
the vision is the photorealism.
That's not vision to me.
Oh, Jesus, this fucking elitist.
That's lack of vision.
No,
to me.
Somebody had to make the call. This artist, whomever they may be, could have probably gone stylistic way. Instead, they chose this. Still a choice.
Maybe for a few. I don't think it's a choice for a lot. Because I think I see a lot of people tracing who can't really draw.
Yeah.
So that takes me out too.
at the core of this, I think there's a craft elite, and I mean this in the most complimentary way. Okay, there's a craft elitist inside of you that makes you go like, unless you are fucking drawing and busting your butt in the same effort, in the same, not necessarily identical effort, the same similar effort than I am, you're dismissive of it. Is that true?
I'm not going to say the same level I am. I'm not saying I'm so great at it.
It's not talking about greatness. Does that make sense? Like it has nothing to do with like the quality of the stuff that you're putting out, which again, being off the table, I don't know if I need to like paraphrase it I don't know if I need to like preface it by saying you're doing fine. It sounds
like what you're saying is a fair statement. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's an interesting reflection on like, I wonder if you're reacting because you're seeing them not putting in the same effort as you are, which doesn't make it good or bad. It just look at it. You go
there could very well be truth to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely truth to that. Not that there could be. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. These guys suck, according to Shawn.
I didn't say they suck. I said I'm not interested.
Yeah. Going back to what I was saying is, to me, like, even though that's not the kind of research that I do, and I can do that because my whole thing is based on energy and lines, and every time I tried, and maybe I thought, I found the perfect picture, so I'm gonna use this one as a base for my panel. Then the panel ends up not working for me, so it kills all the thing that I need for my pages to be my pages. So it doesn't work with me, but I'm always fascinated by seeing, like, I don't know, like, because I see that the process is so different from my process that I'm fascinated. I'm thinking like, whoa, wow, how did this guy made this thing, because I don't have a clue. It's not part of my process. And also I like the part of when you have the picture and then you have to do your own interpretation and put the black or whatever, or make it a little dirty with brushes.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about, I don't know, like Tommy Lee, our good friend. I think he uses pictures. I don't know. And I think he does.
Tommy
like
does,
but
but Tommy I put in a totally different category.
Yeah.
Because Tommy is such a brilliant artist. Like I see, like when I said earlier, when you were like, there are some that are making this decision and some that aren't, I said, I don't think there's that many that are making that decision. Tommy's making that decision because Tommy could draw beautifully with or without it. Yeah. And so, yeah.
So they're making the decision for the lack of skill. Is that what it is? Or for the lack of like craft knowledge, and they opt to go easy mode.
So you probably don't like it when you have the feeling that it's a shortcut.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're getting to we're getting to the core of you,
to get
pal.
back to Tommy. Yeah. But to get back to Tommy, Tommy still creates a world I haven't seen. He still builds a world. He uses elements of what we know and adds to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's worth thinking about.
Because, are we just deciding I'm just an asshole? Is that what
it's not actually. We're trying to understand.
We're using you as
like.
We're using you as a template, but that opinion is not unique to you. There's plenty of people are like, oh, it's a photograph. And I often try to think of it like broadly, but I'm trying to think of it specifically where you're coming from. Broadly, I'm in like, take Dave Fincher and you say like, he's an amazing director, amazing artist, amazing sort of like visionary. Now go have him direct a Marvel Cinematic Universe. You go like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't fit, right? For me, that's the line of delineation for me. If you are utilizing a style or a level of visual execution that doesn't fit the story, that's where I go like, I'm out. This is it. You clearly as a craftsperson, as a contributor to this project, you didn't look at the story and go, I need to implement a different approach to this. Because if you are doing like, cataclysmic world ending, alien invasion stuff, and you're doing photorealistic and the tone of the story isn't about photorealism. It's about the bombastic nature of an alien, whatever, invasion. then I think you're not a good fit stylistically. You may argue why that is. You may say like, oh, because it's coming from the common man and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I'm looking at the story, and the story is saying it's about fucking ID4 and not about like, the realistic telling of a person on the street coming out of their house. Right. So I look at it, that's the metric for me, where it's like, if the style doesn't fit the story that it's trying to tell, I check out. I look at the actual tool, which is like photorealism, or like, using photographs as a point of reference. And I go like, it's just another tool. Some people use it clumsily, right? Or they do the version that I don't even know what informs it. Maybe it's like, 3 weeks to turn this thing around. There's no way for me to polish it as well as I could, or like hide the seams, hide the,
right.
Like I see Tommy, and I know Tommy, can use photographs and has used photographs as a jumping off point. But on more than one occasion, Tommy has, had the benefit of time to sort of like hide where the photograph starts and where his skill ends, or, where the photograph ends and his skill starts. Right. So there's also factors of that. But if it's strictly because I'm like, oh, you ran a filter on top of this, that's when I go like, okay, then the other part of my brain goes, well, somebody was willing to pay you, so congratulations,
Right. And that's a lot what I'm talking about. But also to go deeper, when I feel like a panel is a photograph, it feels like that moment stops. Like I feel like a good comic. Yeah, that's what I mean when I say I can't read it, because a good comic, there's this illusion of movement occurring from panel to panel. And when something just feels like it was a photograph, and especially when they use their like friends and family to act, and it just looks so stiff and frozen.
But again, going back to what Eric was saying, I think that's the case when the medium is used clumsy. Because I have, for example, a good friend of mine who uses photo references and stuff, and he uses 3D models and all the help that he can get. He's a great artist. He doesn't need to use them. He started a few years ago, and he's paying off. So he likes what he does. So that's what he does now. But he's able to convey that kind of energy, even though he's using photograph, it's mixing stuff. It's a process that takes a lot of time. He's actually slower than he would be without photographs. So it's an actual choice.
And that sounds good. And to expound on that, here you have an artist who's trained, their craft is at a nice level, and then they're using a tool. And so they can use their knowledge and their craft in the areas where the tool is falling short. And when that happens, I guess I'm okay with that. Like, that doesn't bother me. It's when that time wasn't spent really learning and developing your art craft, and you just jump to the photos where I'm out.
No,
I think we got to get used to
pretty consistent with your character, though,
and technology. We're gonna be like with AI and all the shit, the programs, the apps. There's literally like programs when you put a couple of 3D models of buildings, and maybe I've already said it here on the podcast, but you give it a couple, 2 or 3 models, and he's able to read into those models, understand the kind of style. Like if you put like 2 or 3 Victorian buildings, 2 3D models of Victorian buildings, he understands that style, and he's able to build a whole city using that kind of aesthetic. And he does bridges, streets, and everything, So, once you have that, there's always going to be shortcuts, and there's always going to be an audience that it's not able to distinguish who's the craftsman and who's using shortcuts. So it's something that you got to
talk about that quickly.
I think.
Yeah, I see it. There's a lot of people who are like, right now the current trend is to really celebrate the hell out of manga, right? And if I go take a look at some of these ones that are like super in high demand or super well regarded, I look at the actual pages themselves and I shrug, because the manga that I grew up with are like Battle Angel Alita and that layer of manga, right? Like Silent Mobius and really super old man
Eric,
version.
you froze for a second there.
Yeah, you
Say
froze.
that again.
Yeah.
Battle Angel Alita.
Yeah, after that.
After that.
Silent Mobius.
Yeah, we didn't hear that.
Okay.
So
okay.
anyway, that's a book by Kiya Asamiya from way back in the day. Really amazing illustrator.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it.
That's what I'd gotten used to as far as the craft quality bar, right? And the stuff that I see now, and I have like 3 or 4 volumes of My Hero Academia and Chainsaw Man and all those other ones. And I look at it and I'm like, I don't understand why this is as celebrated as it is, but I'm not taking the opportunity to read it all the way through. Right, I'm just looking at it, biased in my bias, looking at it from the art in an art space. Which it does not mean that it is bad. I see it as incomplete based on the parameter, the metric that I have in my head. The metric is Battle Angel Alita and Silent Mobius, right? And Akira and all that kind of stuff. But the execution now is not that. When somebody tells me, "Oh yeah, this is getting cranked out like super fast." And they are finding as many quote unquote shortcuts or assists as they possibly can in order to get this thing out. I'm like, oh, the metric that I have is not near the top of the list as far as like what's important to a lot of different people. So this goes back to what Matteo was talking about. The metric now is like, is it coming out quickly enough so that it holds my attention in an attention economy? Right. In an attention sort of society, the faster something comes out and the more relevant it is because it's in the front of mind. Right. That's what people gravitate to. Right. I look at the most popular webtoon. Somebody goes, I have my buddy John Amore, who we've had on the show.
Yeah.
He's like, the most popular webtoon is X. And for the life of me, I can't even remember what it is. And I go like, why is that the most popular? And he's like, well, look at how many readers it has, like how many people who follow it and subscribe to it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go take a look at what that is. And I'm like, I get it. I get why this thing is popular, not because of its craft, which potentially it's not a condemnation of the person who's drawing it, but because it's coming out consistently and it got there first. Right. It's been around since forever. It came out early and it's been coming out since. And I'm like, oh, that's why. Because that's what, if you think about why Instagram is at least in my use case, why Instagram is a piece of shit to me now, is because it's trying to maintain that attention economy. That's the metric and by which it decides your stuff is relevant. Stay here, stay often, and stay for as long as possible. Right. So that to me goes back to what you're saying, Shawn, right? Which is like, is that person shortcutting because they need to pump out this book, right? Or they understand they've basically found a hack to making the kind of money that they need to.
Eric, sorry to interrupt, but I have a small pushback to what you're saying.
Go.
I don't know about what you said because, for example, like take Vagabond. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's for those who don't know, it's basically a manga, which is based on the life of Miyamoto Musashi, one of the most famous ronins in the whole Japanese ancient history. And he's not like one of the things about I think Takehiko Inoue is the name of the artist and the writer, the creator in general. Like he's known for being really, really slow on that book, but that book is still super successful. So I don't know, like if we can find and pick a specific elements that makes a book successful more than another book.
Hold on.
It's really hard.
Let's make sure that we are not using a book like that comes out slow as like the example. Right. I would say that a book like that is the exception. Right. Yeah. I don't know if that book, if you can do an entire industry of book that come out infrequently and as slow as that book and have it still be as successful. I think that book comes out as successful as it is. It is successful in spite of it coming out very slow.
Okay. And also that book is before this economy we're living in now of social media and stuff. That book was around before that.
Yeah. would
Okay, so you were
contextualize it
talking
in that
specifically
space to
about
be like,
nowadays and how things have changed and
correct.
what matters now. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, sorry.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. There's few exceptions to that rule, clearly. And I'm happy to discuss all of that stuff. I love finding like them like, yo, this thing is crazy. Like, Berserk, I think, is an exception.
Yeah.
Berserk is like volumes thick, and people just love the hell out of that manga. I haven't read it myself, but I hear it's pretty downtrodden. So I'm like, oh man, it sounds like if I read it, I'm just gonna walk away going, I don't know I'm gonna go eat some razor blades or whatever the heck it is. People just talk it up like it's sort of like, again, it's a sort of a downer, but it finds hope in all of that darkness, which I think is a nice sort of like formula. It's the same people. What is that most recent video game that came out? Is it Elden Ring? Where it's like
Mario
super
Bros.
Dark and it's super. Yeah. Luigi's Mansion is super dark,
Yeah, on the action set.
But yeah, so that's that to me is those are the rare exceptions. I'm talking about just like right now, what makes for a traditionally successful book within a formula. Got to get it out fast, and you got to get it out often. And if you have a tool at your disposal that lets you do that, not the least of which photographs. Let's say you don't have 5 assistants that's handed to you by the publisher and you can get it out quickly. I understand why, but I know where you're coming from, Shawn, where, first of all, it's preference. You don't care for it. So who's to say that's right. And
that's what I'm saying.
That's what you want,
me.
Yeah. It doesn't stop me. That for me, the preference is like, if this thing doesn't make sense within the context of your story, I'm out. Right.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And rare does it work for superheroes for me, photorealism. Rare.
Yeah, and I guess that's mainly what I'm talking about. But yeah,
I love people who know how to cartoon, man. I love people who know how to like, find an interpretation of life, even if it's not realistic proportion, and say like, draw the fuck out of that thing. I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's me too. All right.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want to end on something positive here.
Yeah.
Name one thing or two things that's exciting you when it comes to your art right now. Like what are you adding or playing with in your own art that's got you excited?
Go ahead, man.
Do I go? So about my art?
Yeah, man. Your art, yeah.
Oh, I got plenty of stuff, man. I love my own stuff. No, putting the jokes aside, what I'm loving now is that I'm using like only, I've already said this, but I'm gonna repeat it. And I'm using like pans and all those, really rigid tools. And and now I have this more of a like scratchy feel I've added. That's what I added to the pages. And I don't know why the brush wasn't giving me the same satisfaction that he used to, And so I really needed something different, especially since I've started doing really, really detailed layouts. I was noticing that sometimes I would love the layout more than the actual like page, the finished page. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to add that kind of, grainy and rough feel to the pages. And we'll see where this takes me. So that's what I'm liking.
What about you,
Shawn?
Eric?
You first.
For Jonathan Glapion introduced me to a glazing medium. I like when I paint, I've been working just with water to thin my paints. And when he was at New York Comic Con, he was showing me what he was doing with it, and that got me really excited. And then I've been talking to Aaliyah a lot about glazing, so I started messing with it, and I'm really excited about where I can go with this with glazing in my painting now. That's got me pretty hyped.
And by the way, Shawn was talking about Aaliyah, my son. Is talking to him, and my son is giving me advice on painting.
Yeah, my next project's gonna be all crayon.
By glazing, he means reaching into his diapers and wiping shit all over the place.
I imagine his kid enter his studio and you're like, Dad, what you doing? And he just turns with all this face like covered in colors and stuff. Like he's eating a crayon.
I'm in a diaper at my art table.
Let's see. For me, it's just the consistency. The fact that I'm doing it consistent. I remember, again, by the way, Matteo gave clarification to this a while, but I already understood. He didn't need to give any more context. I knew where he was coming from. I am taking to heart. You guys know this about me, but I take things as a personal challenge, right? Like, hey, they'll never let you. I remember when my very good friend, the godfather to my children, said, they'll never let you draw Superman with that style. And I said, fuck you. I'm going to do it. You know, that's always been sort of like, and as soon as I prove it, I get so. He was right. No, he didn't. They should have never let me draw Superman, but I did anyway. But that was the middle finger since I did, right? So when Matteo said, "Hey, you're not really known as a comic book guy," and it wasn't the first time that I heard it. It wasn't the first time that I heard it from somebody, right? I think I heard it from an extended conversation with Scotty Young, you know, and he said something to the same spirit of. I'm like, if two people are saying it, it's not like whatever. It's not their perspective. There must be some truth to it. And then you couple that with our conversation with Todd McFarlane, and he goes like, oh, by the way, it's just a random number, but let's say 50. But in my head, I was like, yeah, fucking 50. Let's go. Let's do 50. You know,
Awesome.
That'll shut everybody up moving forward to be like, oh, you're not really a comic book guy. You don't really do a run. You don't, you know, you got to do 50 or whatever. Now it's on my chest to be like, let's do 50. But independent of that, like really foolhardy, you know, shit, the consistency where I'm like, I'm actually doing it over and over and over again and finding still within that how to optimize to get to 50, if that makes any sense. Like I'm ramping things down detail wise and ramping things up clarity wise and going like, I don't need to draw those 5 lines like I did in series 1. Now that I'm going to go into series 2, let me go figure out the version of this that I would do without alienating a crowd, because I got the piece of feedback to be like, hey, Eric, you're known to have detail in your work. And I pushed back on that and said like, well, I could be known for this too, but I know where they're coming from. So now I'm trying to find a like a visual compromise that's not too off-putting.
And by the way, Eric, I wanted to ask you something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, in the Todd McFarlane's episode, but we kept talking about other stuff. So he got buried.
Yeah.
So when you talk about issues, like what I know about Arcatina is that issues are bigger than a normal issue. All right. So are you thinking about actual
48, 49 pages?
Are you thinking about actually like 50 issues of like 50 pages each?
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's a lot. Jesus Christ. It's 2,500 pages overall.
Yeah.
That's a fucking
and because like that number crossed my mind when I did the math. Let's say like 48 pages times 50 issues, right? And then I said like, oh fuck, that's overwhelming. But that's the version of me that I would think about back in the day. Now I actually, the mechanism that saves me from that level of anxiety and getting overwhelmed is going like, we're going to do this one book at a time, because that saved me from book 4 series 1. When series 1 turned from 5 books and turned into 6 books, if I focused on, oh my gosh, I got to do another 50 pages, it would have been nuts. Instead, I said, I'm just going to get book 4 done. I'm going to get 5 done. I'm going to get 6 done. And next thing you know, it's 300 pages later. Right. So that to me is a good sort of like coping mechanism, for the lack of a better term, to be like, let me just get, this series done, because like 2,500 pages isn't the goal. The goal is like series 2. And even within series 2, book 1, series 2, book 2, So but by the time I'll look up, it'll be 2,500 pages later.
All right.
There we go.
To see that, man.
All right, kids.
That's awesome.
I mean, you'll be like 85 years old, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm 84 now, so yeah, it's going to take about a year. All right, you guys, I'm going to stop this stupid.
All righty.
This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the podcast. Comics, hip hop, life.